Hello, hello.
Hi,
What's
everybody.
what's going on, Kozak family and others?
And others.
All right. So today we are starting our brand new series with my lovely wife. We are going to be going over all the beginner kind of stuff that really is a lot more fun to do and get you playing right away. So she has a bit of experience, but she knows a few
Little.
chords and some stuff.
Yeah.
But we're going to go over things specifically for what her goals are. But anytime you have any questions or anything like that, we can take a little, get a little sidetracked and go from there. So, yeah, what we're going to be covering today. Oh, before I forget, actually, we are still doing we're giving away free lessons for anyone that donates to the ASAN, Autistic Self Advocacy Network. I can never get that out. But yeah, anyone that donates anything to there, we'll do some free lessons. So what we're gonna start with some of the stuff. Like I said, she'll already know. But what we're gonna do is start with some chords, do some rhythms, kind of get both hands going, and do so in a way where you can start playing songs you like real quickly. So it's a lot better than Mary Had a Little Lamb. So.
Hot cross bun.
Yeah, in my opinion, for sure. All right, so just to go over some of these, there are multiple ways that music will be written out for guitar. If it tends to be written out with chord charts like what you see on the screen now, and then like the lyrics with the chord written above it when you're supposed to change. There's also something called tablature, which we will get into later. But tablature is a much more efficient way of seeing where you're supposed to put your fingers, rather than doing anything with like standard sheet music, which can actually be a problem on guitar if you're not used to it, because you can play the same note in multiple areas. So I could play it here, six places. So how do you know which one to play? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with these chord charts. We are using standard A440 for tuning. So just to go over that real quick, you've got E, A, D, G, B, and E again, if you're tuning it. So E, A, G, E, and it's kind of the best standard tuning is kind of the best compromise between being able to play chords and be able to play like melodies and stuff. So.
Okay.
She picked up the guitar right when we started, and it was in a tuning with D-A-D-D-A-D. So it's, pretty weird, right? Yeah, you went to play a chord, and it was like... So there's a lot of different ways you can write things out. These chord charts are a little bit nicer than some of them would be. Basically, the vertical lines represent each one of your strings. So... thickest string, which we'll refer to as the low E string or the sixth string, is the fat guy on the left. Skinniest string is on the right, which would be your first string. One thing I should also say is anytime I say higher or lower, it's always how it sounds. It's not what it looks like. Because, I mean, if you're looking at my fingers right now, if I go, a lot of times people think that's up, but it's down. Because, as you... Yeah, it's I mean, people tend to know what you mean. But if you were to communicate, like, you're more of a singer, so if I were to talk to you and I said sing higher, it's not like you're going to stand up straighter or something. You know what I mean?
I might, but yeah.
You might. So this, looking at this, the strings are the vertical lines, and then the horizontal lines are your frets. So frets are just these metal bars that go across your guitar. Most guitars, they're going to be on the odd numbers. So 3, 5, 7, 9. The double dot is 12. And that's just most of the stuff that we're going to be doing right now. I'm going to be more with don't tell my work on here. Your secret is safe. That's awesome. That's Seth. Yeah. Don't worry about that. I always love it when I have students that bring their laptop to lessons and then have to make like a conference call real quick right in the middle of it. It's awesome. Yeah, so we got we got our frets. We've got for right now, this black line at the top is going to be the nut of the guitar, which is right here, the nut. A nun.
The nun of the guitar. Okay.
No, the nut. We're like I said, we're doing open position stuff right now, so that's going to be a lot more down towards like the first fret area. If it did say like a number on the side, like fifth or something like that, it would just tell you that your chord shape's going to be higher. On these, there's a couple other things just to bring up. Depending on the situation, you might use different fingers. To make for me, having pretty big hands, some of them are kind of hard for me to get my fingers into quickly, so I'll do it in a different way. So that's totally okay. If we are talking about fingers, it's first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. I know if anyone's coming from a piano background, that always throws them off because thumb is number one. So it can be a little goofy, but doesn't have to be. So anytime you see a dot on here, we're gonna start with this E minor chord just because it's super easy and sounds good. So if you see a little circle on the top, like right there, that means you're going to play the string, but you don't have to put a finger down. If we were to look at, like, say this D chord where there's those two X's, you don't want to hit those strings. If you do, it's really not the end of the world. I think there's something to be said about practicing it to make something perfect. But if you, a lot of times you'll get a lot more benefit by kind of messing up a little bit, but keeping things going. Because then you kind of figure out how to problem solve. But I mean, just to show you real quick, if I were to play that D chord with just the four strings, that's really good. If I hit the fifth string in there as well, pretty similar. But then if I start getting this to the sixth string, it's just kind of gross. It just exactly. It gets real muddy, and we don't want that. So what we're gonna do is let's start with this E minor chord. So most of the time, just use the two fingers. Second fret on the fifth string, second fret on the fourth string. Yeah, it's a good one, right? Well, let's hear how it sounds. Prove it. Yeah, that's pretty good. And actually, there is a chord that I should have prepared better to put up here. But if you move the E minor chord from the fifth and fourth string, and you move that shape towards the floor, each finger one string. Yep. So doing it on the fourth and third string, that's what's called an A sus2 chord. And switching between those two is fairly cool because it's...
I always wondered what that stupid whatever chord is.
All the weird names?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let the names freak you out.
Like CAD 9.
C add 9.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing I didn't bring up, if it just says a note like E or G, you always want to just assume that it's major, unless it says otherwise. So that would be like an E major chord. If it's got the little M, that means minor, which really you can just think about it as major being happy, minor being sad. But yeah, there are goofy names, and I know you were interested in getting into the theory. So we'll definitely be talking about like even if it has a crazy name, like G minor 6 add 9 or whatever, it's named in a logical way. So it shouldn't. It's not too difficult to start understanding them. So don't let them freak you out. Great. So the most important thing for you getting used to this is going to be switching between chords. If you're not, I should say this. If you hit the chord in the right spot, it's still going to sound pretty much like the song. If you do something weird with, strumming and your strumming gets goofed up, as long as you're hitting the chords in the right spot, you're going to be pretty good. A lot of times people get tripped up on the rhythm and they might not do what they wanted right away. So honestly, I would just start by the longer you stay on one chord, the better, or easier it gets. So let's just real quick, let's do that E minor chord and just play it like, let's say 4 times if that feels manageable, and then switch to that A sus2 chord and do that for 4 times. So like you're just doing down towards the floor. So that's a great way of just getting going. with chords like that are similar. Anytime you can find a similarity, it's going to be really helpful. So let's say we're looking at this A minor chord, which is up here, second one on this page, and then the E, which is the first one on this line. They're practically the same shape. That's very close to what you just did, right? So if we have that A minor, so for that one, it's the first finger on the second string, first fret, then ring finger on the second fret, and then middle finger on the second fret.
Can I?
Yeah, you're good. You're doing good. Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So with these chords, the ones on the top of this page, actually, if we were to look at another chart, these are pretty much all of the open shapes. And on these charts, it tells you what each string's note is that you're playing for that chord. So, and right now I wouldn't really worry too much about that. But anyway, these, taking any of these or like these first 8 up here, they're all going to sound pretty good together, but it's not as common to do like a D and a D minor in the same thing. So if you're trying to figure out what to practice, honestly, you can just take these and make flashcards out of it and, practice switching A to E or G to C or whatever it is, all right? The other thing I should point out is a lot of times there are similarities that aren't super obvious at first. So let's see if you can see it. What's A minor and C are actually pretty close. There's only actually one thing that has to change.
Yeah, it's like the first 2 frets are the same, and then down to the 3rd fret on the C.
Yeah, so it's really just the ring finger. You have it here.
See that's where it trips me up. Is like not moving all 3 of my fingers, but moving just that one.
Yeah.
Like I don't have total control
Sure.
over that. It's like, oh.
Well, here, let's take a little detour for a second. This is something you can don't waste like practice time on this because it's super boring. But if you're like watching TV and something, you want to work on finger independence and moving your fingers. If you just put all of your fingers, it doesn't even matter if they're on different frets or what, but on one of the middle strings, and then you just take one off and you just have to tap low to high. So you can do this for a while. You could do the middle finger then. You could do the worst finger, the ring finger, because everything wants to move with it. You can do your pinky. If you start feeling like that's easy, you could do opposites. So you take 2 different fingers and do like low, high. And when you're doing that, you want them to hit at the same time. Because you don't want to, if you think about it, when you're trying to get a chord shape, you don't really want to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You want to just be able to hit that chord. So, little things like that can be really good. I would not recommend if anyone... What just happened? Well, why did it just start playing? I don't even know where that is. Oh, there's like this lonely little drum beat. I guess this has just continued to keep playing. That's hilarious. All right. Anyway, that can be a good independence thing. Those little Gritmaster like spring things, I don't like those at all. I feel like when people use those, they train themselves to push down way too hard, because the key to playing any instrument really is going to be relaxed. The more tense you are, like when I started building up speed and trying, doing like that sort of stuff, I would get this awful hunchback because I was too tense. So, we want to avoid that. So anyway, all of these chords are great, but I think these bottom ones are a little bit more, maybe a little bit more practical for switching at first, because if you look at all 7 of those shapes, you have your fingers are these 2 at least. They're in the same exact spot for every single one of these chords. So 3rd fret, you would have your ring finger right here on the 3rd fret, and then your pinky on the 3rd fret on the first one. So the first dot, yeah.
I'm a little too high, but okay.
Yep, there you go. So that, like right there, that would be like the E minor 7, right? Yep. Yep.
That's G.
Yep. Good. hmm
That's not too bad.
Yeah, and if you look, so just to talk about some of these chord names, really the ones I want to talk about are the G/B and the D sus4/F sharp. Really long chord names. But if you look at the G and the G/B, they're pretty identical, except we get rid of that one finger. So anytime you see dropping everything, every time you see a slash, you're still like, let's say you don't know what it is, but you want to play the song, you can just do the chord that's on the left. So you could just play a G chord instead and kind of substitute. It'll sound fine. The /B, that's telling you that your lowest note is a B. Most of the time, these are just transitional. So if we were doing, let's say we started with this version of the G chord, and we want to go to this E minor 7, we might play this sus4/F sharp chord in between, because if we look at our low notes, if we do the G chord, for example, we're on the 3rd fret, and then if we go to E minor 7, it's 0. If we hit that sus4 in between, it's smoother, right? So you're adding essentially a bass line. So 0, rather than just going the chord, right? If you were doing that A minor 7, you're at 0 on the 5th string. And then let's say we wanted to go to the C add 9, very similar, 3rd fret on the 5th string. Sorry. Then we could add the G/B in between to hit that 2nd fret. So if we had like, but like I said, if I were just to play a regular G chord there, it works, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you're playing with a bass player, they would be hitting that B note anyway, so you don't really have to, you know. Awesome. So like I said, these chords tend to be really, really smart to start switching between. Depending on the style of music you're into, you might use these chords more. It tends to be more common, especially in modern music. These kind of open chords are a little bit more classic, for lack of a better term. So if you were playing like, I don't know, like Johnny Cash or something like that, where it would be a little bit more like towards these kind of chords where you have like sort of thing, something open, rather than having it's a little bit more modern. So anyway, do you have any questions on that right now? Feeling good? Cool. So let's take a look over at some rhythms then. Because obviously you're not going to want to just hit the chord and just boring, right? So let's just talk about this. This book is pretty cool because it's just a bunch of rhythms for any instrument. At the beginning of a piece of music, you'll have what's called your time signature, where, like in this case, it says 4/4. The top number is telling you how many beats you have per measure, and the bottom is telling you what kind. So like a fraction, right? So 4 on the bottom would be a quarter. So you can see, like on this first line, we've got 4 beats every measure, and measure line, 4 more beats, measure line, right? So these quarter notes, those are going to be 1 beat each. If you had like this, where it's similar but it's not filled in, that's going to be the half note, which is 2 beats. These little squigglies would actually be a quarter rest. And so when you rest, that's just going to be putting your hand on the strings, just making it like that, right? And I don't think there's anything else on this one. So what I would suggest you do is you can do all these kinds of rhythms, but I actually think that starting with eighth notes involved is really useful. So like we said, we have 4 beats. So if we're looking at like this first measure right here, you're going to have 4 downbeats. So you're going to have 1 right here, 1 right there, 3, and then 4, right? These eighth notes, the second ones are actually going to be the upstroke, so up towards the ceiling, okay? So what's going to happen here is, if you were to see the symbol, sometimes people use D and U for down and up. Sometimes people I've seen use actual arrows. The more common thing is it looks like a lowercase n is a downstroke, and then a V. I don't know why this is a V. The V is the upstroke, okay? So, yeah, if we're gonna take so for that first measure, or actually let's do this B line, okay? So you're gonna have down, up, down, down, okay? So what I would do is first of all just pick any chord you want. Sure. So you're doing the G chord and just do that rhythm. So yeah, good. And then let's switch. So I want you to go do the C add 9 after that. Very similar, right? So you're gonna have that rhythm, and if you want that up, I'll pull it. So you're gonna have back and forth. Okay, and just see how many times you can loop it. Let's give it a go.
Like, I can't count and do that at the same time.
You know, that brings up a good point. I think to be really good at, understanding the rhythms, you should be able to count it, you should be able to play it, and then be able to do both.
Okay.
So you can count however you want. Sometimes people prefer to just think down, up, down, up, down, down. Some people would count it as like numbers, and do one hand. I had one student that who is autistic, and he hates numbers, so he counts with syllables. So if it was like, what was the weird one he was doing? He had a song he was doing that had 5 beats. So in his head, he was just saying hippopotamus because it's 5 syllables. He was just saying that over and over again. So really, you can count however you want. It doesn't matter. Some people get really opinionated on that, and I just think that's dumb. All right, let's have you choose a different one. What do you want to try? And really, we're just going to choose one small one. Most of your patterns are going to be fairly repetitive, so it'll just be, the pattern repeating each string or each chord kind of thing.
So with C right there, so there's the 8th note. Oh, there's
this one.
Oh, that's an open. Yeah, I was like, wait, there's only.
Yeah. So right here you have 1 and 2, 3, 4. That's because that's 2 beats. Right?
So how do you do that?
Strum it?
Just strum once?
Yeah, you strum once and you hold it.
Oh, okay.
So you just have down, down. So like 1, 2,
3. Yeah.
So if you had a whole note, which is like the half note without the stem attached to it. So if you have a whole note, it's 4 beats. That just means you're literally exactly just hold it for 4. Okay. Yeah, like you can see down here, it says 2/4. So then each of these only has 2 beats per measure. 4/4 is the most common. They actually a lot of times you'll see, if you see just the letter C, it is in 4/4. C stands for common time. And it's like what everyone goes for. But depending on what it is, let's say we were playing something in 6/8, that's going to have kind of more of like a back and forth kind of rocking kind of feel, a little bit like. So those groupings make it feel different, right? And really that comes down to like accents and stuff, so how hard you hit or whatever. But
so go to E down there.
So it would I'll switch. I'll do a chord switch just to make it easier. So I'll just go back to let's say the G and the C at 9. So if I were playing, let's say like this F, the first measure of F here, I'm just gonna have down, up, down, if it had, like here you can see it's just 2 beats. Most of the time your measure is going to be where you change your chord. So there are songs, right, where you'll be playing something, you'll have something kind of quick where you right, something like that. But most of the time it's going to be, you know, kind of like at least the measure of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly, I think when you're starting, I think 4/4 is great. It gives you different opportunities to test things out, and I think that going from something faster like eighth notes to a half note even like that, it helps you keep track of your timing and everything like that. Are there all the kind of notes like quarter and whole? Yeah, exactly. Just the same thing like you would have on piano.
What's the question?
They're asking, are there all the kind of notes like quarter, half, whole, like on piano? Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's just a little bit different. Like a lot of times the way that you'll see it is going to be a little bit different. So now if we were doing like a chord progression, like let's say that's G and C, like let's say we did this whole B line, this first measure I could play the G chord, the second measure I could play the C, or you know, or just pick wherever you want to switch. Most of the time you're going to have the strumming pattern hopefully at the beginning of your song, and then what it'll show you is literally just the you know, what like the chord will be written directly above it, you know, or above lyrics depending, but like I said, most of the time it's going to be pretty consistent. So really, I mean, if you're trying to make up a rhythm, you could do whatever you want. I mean, it's music. There's that, what is it, John Cage, who had that song 4:33. It's 4 minutes 33 seconds, and he didn't play a single note. He just sat at the piano like this. I guess that it's music. Do what you want, right? Pretty stupid. But
in my heart, I don't feel like that totally classifies as music because he didn't make a sound.
No, I think actually halfway through he turned the page.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. It was like this ridiculous experiment or whatever. But yeah, you could make you know, I to get the hang of different rhythms, you know, you could just start with whole notes, do half notes, Now, one thing there's I guess 2 things that are important to bring up. Most of the time when you're strumming, you really just want your hand to be consistently going down and up, and it's just a matter of if you actually hit the string or not, because you want to keep this consistent. When we get into some other rhythms that have what are called ties, which is basically like, sometimes people think it looks like a little smiley face, but it glues the notes together. If you don't keep this consistent, especially with those, it's going to feel really robotic and sound kind of awkward. So I definitely think it's you know, you want to avoid that. But let's try. I'm going to do something. Let's say we did this first one of D, okay? So it's in 4/4, and you're gonna have quarter note, 2 eighth notes, quarter note, 2 eighth notes. So down, down, down. Okay? So get used to that real quick, just with whatever chord you want. Yep. So now, one thing that I actually saw you doing, which was good, that a lot of people don't realize, is you don't have to necessarily, this is going to sound weird, but you don't have to keep the chord the entire time, especially if you have an eighth note at the end. You can start to switch early. Okay. And so it's not like, yeah, there are slurs as well. A lot of times on guitar, the slurs are more like if you're playing a scale and you're not picking everything. Kind of makes it smoother. Yeah, the ties, right, where if instead of going 1, 2, it would just be tied together as one, that sort of thing. Slurs are between changing notes, but yeah, there definitely are. So if we were playing that with the eighth note at the end, let's go back. You can start to switch early. Now, if you're playing like, let's say that G and C at 9. When you go down, down, see, just those high strings. If you're doing the chords like we were talking about here, where everything has these 2 fingers, you can really just hit those 2 strings and it'll sound. So then it's not like that panic moment where you're like at the first chord and then you're like, okay, I gotta get here. So here, let's try doing this. Let's try going G. And then, so go down to the G, up with nothing. Or, yeah, you were right. I said it wrong.
Well, I was just focusing on your.
Down, up, down. And so there are kind of, I mean, pretty much anyone, even if they haven't played an instrument before, would assume that you're going to play slow and then speed it up, right? That's a great way of practicing, but you can also play at a fuller speed and do a smaller chunk of notes. So if you're having a problem with a certain transition, just try doing that transition over and over again. Don't worry about everything, because like what ends up happening to people is, let's just pretend this rhythm thing is a song. They'll start at the very beginning. They'll get really good at the first maybe 2 lines or something, and then let's say that when they get to the line C here, they start messing up. Then they start over, and then they keep doing that and starting over. They're gonna get super good at the beginning, but not good at where they're actually messing up, right?
Yeah.
So you can do this all over. I mean, even if you were doing like more of a melody type thing, you gradually add what's manageable. Are there 8 or 10 string guitars? There are, for sure. There's actually, I'll give you that one for a second. There's actually a guy that I know that has a 21 string. It's ridiculous, but like I've got an 8 string right here, which is kind of wild. It's this one's a little weird. Most of my electrics are 7 string, which is just an extra lower string. This one has low and a high. Most 8 strings just get lower. Just depends on what you're. They tend to be more for metal, or jazz. You know, if they're playing like bass lines. Yeah, it's not normal for me, is it? All of my students telling me I play too much sad stuff. It just sounds cool. Like I said, if you can do like that burst method, it can help you get past maybe some stumbling areas or whatever. So like let's try a little bit different of a rhythm just to kind of show you the rhythm and that tie idea. So if we were to do, you know what? Let me, if I can find it on here. I couldn't see because one of my computers is in the way. Here. We'll open up Tux Guitar. If you need a software, this little penguin guy is pretty awesome for this. So I'm gonna write it out in here, but just this is like that tablature thing I was talking about. I don't like doing strumming with this because I'll show you. Okay, there's our E minor chord. So you have 0, 2, 2, 0, 0, 0, like meaning the open strings. We'll talk more about this. Okay. Don't worry about that.
I'm
but
like, what
you
do
can
the
see,
twos mean?
yeah, there's this one line sticking out, right? That's indicating that it's a quarter note. If we were to switch these to eighth notes, you see what I mean? So if we were to play this, whatever, we don't even need this. I'm just going to get rid of, we just want the rhythm. Okay, so if we have this, strumming wise, what would you do? So
down, down, up, down, up, down, up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so if we have like this tied thing, so I always mess this up. There we go. So if we were to tie this upstroke to this downstroke, right, that normally you would do as a down, you're not going to play this one. You're going to hold it. So you're strumming here, and let me put those little symbols in here. If we have, was it up, down here? So you'd have, what? Oh, that's silly. We don't need that. Okay, so you would have down, down, up, hold it, up, down, up. So what happens to most people, and I'll show you the awkward way, is they would go like this and go down, 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 up, down, up, which feels weird. So the downstrokes in general are more powerful. The upstrokes a little more filler, right? So if you went down, down, up, down, up, it just feels weird and sounds strange. So what you want is that down, down, up. I'm still doing the down motion, but I'm not hitting the string. I have down, down, up, this, up. And that pattern right there, if you can get that down, and then the G chord, C chord, E minor chord, and D chord, that's like thousands of songs right there. It's kind of crazy. So if you were to, you know, right, it's everywhere. You can put those in any order too. It all sounds good. So let's try this. Let's just do that rhythm on one chord of your choice. Yeah, that's fine. There's other, and you know, that can, if you have a chord that's easy for you, it can be good to partner that up with ones that are trickier. So then that way you have a little bit of time where you can kind of feel like you can breathe, and then the other part, you know, is a little bit more stressful. What kind of website are you asking about? Are you looking for like guitar music, like lesson kind of stuff, or there's a lot of websites and apps and stuff that are out there. I can definitely put together a list of some good stuff for you. Like what I have right here is kind of nice because this software, Tux Guitar, will play it back. So if you wanted to hear what it sounds like, you can, you know. There's nothing, yeah. So yeah, for guitar music, here, I will put this in the chat for you. I mean, the most common one, Ultimate Guitar. You can find different versions on that. Oops, I think I spelled it. Oh, maybe I didn't spell it wrong. Who knows? But yeah, Ultimate Guitar is a pretty good one. You can look up like, you know, whatever song you want, and it'll show you what the lyrics are with like the chords on top. You just want to make sure you click on the chord version for now. If you do the tablature version, what it'll do is it'll actually show you every instrument and exactly how to play it. So, I mean, what I mean by that, let's take a famous song, Sweet Home Alabama. Okay, if you were to look up the chord version, it'll tell you it's literally the 3 chords. It's a D chord. Right? So that's like, that sounds kind of like the song. But it doesn't have all the details, all the noodly bits. So if you want all that kind of stuff, you would end up putting it more in like this version, which we'll get to. But yeah, just stick to the chord version and you'll be in good shape. All right, so we're gonna do. I guess we want to stay on this. We're gonna do this one with the G chord, okay? And so down, down, up, up, down, up, down, up. And here, I mean, like, if that doesn't. There you go. Faster.
Mainly, it's just like hear the difference. I can't count.
That's okay. I mean, your ear's the final judge anyway, right? Like, if it sounds good, it is good. I don't know. I've done some silly things, especially recording, and it turned out great. So, yeah. So what you just did there was real good. But you can feel like the one time when you kind of stuttered a little, it feels weird, right?
Yeah.
If let's pretend like you had a harder time with this, what I would do is maybe the down, down, up, and then just that upstroke, and forget about the ending there. So you could probably just doing, and get the hang of that. Like I said, obviously the So let's try it with that C add 9 then. So if you went. Perfect. Cool. So, what you want to do is, I think that rhythm is a great one, just to try different chords with. So you were just doing the G, C add 9. Let's add something. So, which one? D, sure.
the ones that we just said are in every other spot, right?
Yeah, and so here, actually, I should clarify this. There are hundreds of ways to play every single chord, which is kind of crazy, right? So you could play a C chord just say a standard C major. I can play it this way. I can play it there. I can do these weird ones. That sounds like we're in Hawaii. I get distracted. What was I even saying? Oh, yeah, you can. The reason I was bringing up the hundreds of ways thing, if you were playing a song and it said to play C add 9, but you preferred either the sound of the regular C or it's easier for you, feel free to swap it. The only thing you don't want to do is swap, like if it was supposed to be, say it said something weird like E/G sharp, which would be a chord with a big stretch. Something like that, right? You would, like, if that chord's hard, that is still a major chord. You would not want to swap that for a minor, because then you end up with that noise. So just as long as it stays major or minor, totally fine. So down here, G, C add 9, E minor 7, and D sus 4 are the big ones. And like I was saying with these, I personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that D sus 4 in terms of hanging out on it. I think it sounds kind of incomplete. And that's what a suspension is. It's alteration to make things sound smoother. But anyway, I would probably just regular D in that case. So if the song said C and then that D, you could do that, but I like that's right. Yeah, it sounds a little bit more complete and just nicer, you know. So, but for right now, let's stick with the these at the bottom. So let me real quick. Which one do I want to turn off? Is it this guy? There we go. That way people can actually see it. All right. So as you go, you're gonna do that G shape, C add 9, D sus 4. All right. Okay. And let's try that rhythm and just do it. Oh, did I write? Oh, yeah, I write lots of songs. that's big.
What is it?
He's asking if I write songs. Yeah, I'm recording a new CD right now that I do this kind of thing on Saturday nights where people can watch me mess up a lot and write and record, you know? Yeah, and then I write music for like TV shows, video games, whatever people want, singers. Yeah. So, do it. Just take it. Whatever feels manageable. So.
Ooh, that's wrong. That's D.
So right there, yeah. So that was the regular D. So if you went to that, the thing that you want to do is keep your ring finger just down. It's in the same spot, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and here's the thing. If you play if you went, if you get this part of the D chord, so just those two notes, and you can get this one late, it still sounds good.
See, yeah, that's weird but that's the
sus 4.
Sus 4.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe play the G chord with the rhythm 2 times, the C once and the D once. So I'd be like G again. Actually, that's Good Riddance, the Green Day song, Time of Your Life.
Oh.
Different is you played the G twice, C twice.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
Oh, I wasn't counting.
The only reason that I'm suggesting you do the G twice is because it makes it more balanced because we're used to hearing things in groups of 4.
Okay.
Right? So when you have that, if I were to just do one time each, you have So most of the time you want to do the Mario theme. For sure. I actually did a cover of Mario 64 with a crazy chord with that one. But I think you're talking about that one, right? So here. It's a little crazy. It's there's a lot of ways actually you can play it, but oops. I like the coin noise the best.
Yeah.
All right. So what you're just doing there, like I said, keeping it in groups of 4s, real nice. Let's try doing. Well, here this is a little bit different. What's the same, I guess, between the G and that E minor 7? Or what's the only thing you have to change? Yeah, exactly. So you go from here, you kind of tuck it underneath, right?
Okay, because it's like this, right?
G, yep.
Would you switch that?
These, if you're there, your first finger actually is going to be on the same string as it was for the G. Your middle finger just goes underneath it. So you go from here with the G, there with E minor.
Touch that other?
So if you look at the E minor right here, you have an open string, second fret, another open, and then third fret. So yeah, exactly.
Okay. That is right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's happening there, it's super common when people are starting especially, but like overthinking it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So it's like, what ends up happening is people will like triple and quadruple check everything. So they'll be like, all right, hand, I'm holding my pick, where do my fingers go? Okay, what chord? Is that right? You know, what's the rhythm? And then they start doing this, and then, you know, they're looking at too many things.
And then you're
right?
dizzy and you can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we don't need that, right? Yeah, so practicing switching between all of those is huge. I mean, you can see that.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, choosing 2 is cool. The longer you stay on the chord, the easier it will be because you're not changing super fast. Yeah, it gives you a little bit of time to process things, right? So really, just 2 chords. If you, like I said, if you do 3, I would probably repeat one of them, whichever one you like more. And then yeah, and let's try one a little bit more difficult. Let's go from. Let's do this. Let's do the C chord to this G chord. That one's a lot worse.
I haven't done this one in a while.
Yeah. So here, I just want to kind of see what you do right away because everyone does this a little bit differently.
So the C to it.
To that G. Yeah. So the G you went to is the one on the bottom. You could also do this guy where there's only 3 fingers. And normally when people play the 3-finger one, they're doing it like this with the ring finger.
Yeah.
Or, you know, sometimes I've seen people do their pinky, but I mean, if you listen to it, or It's very similar.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say hardly
I mean,
very
here,
different.
if you were looking at like the G chord on here, you can see. Oh, I need to bump this up. Let's put. Trying to make it so you can see that better. That's not, or like whatever. That'll work. You could do, if we look at the notes down there, G B D G B D G. So you have 3 G's in that chord, 2 B's, 1 D. So there's a lot of duplicate notes. So it doesn't really matter. It's just a B or a D, depending on which one you use. The one thing I was going to say, though, is if you go from this C to that G, you don't have to necessarily switch everything. There's like a Tom Petty song where it's like... it's a quick change, right? And so in that case, I'm playing the G with those fingers, which is super awkward, but for the sake of this song, works really well. You know, so anyway,
but couldn't you just do this then?
Yeah, you could. It'll, like I said though, it will sound a little different because that C add 9. Different vibe. That one, right? So like I said, the one up there, like. What are tabs? Tablature is kind of what I have here. We'll talk more about this at another one of these because right now it's a bit much. But what happens is, like you know, with piano, you would have 5 lines in the treble clef. With tablature, you have 1 line per string. So right here, the fat string is on the bottom. So where these zeros are. So a 0 is just hitting the string, but you don't have to put your finger down. If this said something like, here, let's delete all this junk. And let's just say we had something like, okay, and we could just continue that. But it's going to be 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret. So whatever number it says on there, that's going to pull up, that's going to be what you play. And just like regular music, like let's say we wanted to do, you know, something like this. What am I even playing there? Oops. You can see it's going to be like a chord and then individual notes. So if it's stacked on top of each other, it will be all played together. If it's one at a time, it's different. So like I said, this is when people really want to know exactly how to play something, you know, that's real specific from... Let me see if I have an actual song. I might have a couple on here. Oh, here's the one. The song is Jessica from the Allman Brothers. Or we could do... So what's cool about this, that very different song, it just has every single instrument written out. So if I wanted to play it, it's going to play a really cheesy, like right here. Yeah, so right here plays everything, right? That can be a little crazy, but like here, this is like a Lamb of God song. Sounds hilarious, and it's all right? But you get all the other instruments in there. So yeah, we'll talk more about the tab thing when it becomes more appropriate. Yeah, it looks crazy, right? But it actually is nicer. Like I was saying, like here it would be 0, 0, 0, 6, 5, 3, and they're not together, right? So with this, like the song is actually in it, but like that, 0, 0, 0, 6, 5, 0, 0, 0, 5, 6. So see, it's telling you exactly what to play, because otherwise it would just be like D minor chord, and you would have no idea what, you know, not. tells you every
Gotcha.
individual note, and it doesn't do it in a way where, like I said, you're not sure which one you want to play. So, cool. Any questions right now? Nice. So practice plan would just be to really focus in on those transitions, and especially that one rhythm we talked about, but any other rhythm that you want. So if any of you guys have questions anytime, I'll just put this in the chat as well. Feel free to reach out. Here's my email. Happy to help out.
LikeGuitarLessons.com. Schedule your free lesson. First
Absolutely.
one's always free. Get the introduction out of the way and then start learning for sure.
Cool.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Yeah.
Fun.
Have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Bye.